Hey everybody, welcome to episode 6 of Thoughtseize, this our podcast style recap series. Another Sunday means we got another episode of all the shout outs we got to give, what happened this past week, what we got coming up. We'll go ahead and start off with our shout outs. Pretty easy to go ahead and run through these. First off, we got Mr. Twin here, came in second place in a challenge with Demir mid-range. This is the aspiring spike flash style build, running all the Wanshi Tongs, the subtleties, Bowmaster, no copies of Psychic Frog. I don't believe there's anything major different about this list. It's got some copies of Break the Ice in the sideboard instead of like what's his name? Instead of Graveyard Trespasser. But that's about the only real change here. We've got another top 8 by a Tori09. Hope I'm not saying that incorrectly. Same idea, running the main board 60 the same, then the Break the Ices in the sideboard. So cool to see that list picking up steam. We did play another league with that list that's over on YouTube. I believe we went 4-1 on Monday. So the list has got a lot of merit to it. Feels really good, going all in on the instant speed, flash style gameplay, using cards like Consult the Star Charts and Wanshi Tong as your card advantage, not relying so much on like Psychic Frog needing to connect versus just getting to cast your spell and usually end up drawing 2 or 3 cards off your Wanshi Tong, and then maybe another draw or 2 if your opponent fetches. The sideboard, I know Spike originally had Aspiring Spike, who made the list, originally had Graveyard Trespasser in the sideboard. It seems like some of these lists are kind of shifting away from that. I know personally I played Kaito in the sideboard over Graveyard Trespasser for a lot of the Solitude decks. Felt pretty good, so I'm kind of interested in sticking with that route going forward. But the bulk majority of the list, very, very good. Felt really good. Highly encourage y'all to try it out if you haven't yet. So we also had a top 8. Yeah, third place from Nahuel. So 3 top 8s in different challenges with almost the same 75. Really cool to see that. Definitely speaks highly to the list. We've got so this is a Grixis Death Shadow 5-0 from Bench Summer, one of the friends of the stream for a long time. Really interesting list here. So this is Grixis Shadow, splashing blue for Lazov the Multifarious and Stubborn Denial, and a couple of copies of Dress Down. So this is a Moon Shadow base, having access to Moon Shadow, Dress Down to potentially play out your shadows. A 1-mana 7/7. It's got Mishra's Baubles to help get cards in the yard, as well as Street Wraith to trigger your Moon Shadow when you play it out and you're not able to just immediately get the counters off of it. We've got Fear of Missing Out. We've got Kroxa, Lazov, as I mentioned, that can pay X to become a copy of a creature in the graveyard. So, for example, if you copy a Moon Shadow in the graveyard, it's not going to get those -1/-1 counters since it didn't enter with them. We've got Nethergoyfs to help out with a lot of these instant sorcery, artifacts, enchantments going to the yard. We've got Tarfire in here, Redirect Lightning. It's a really sweet list. A lot of 1-ofs in the sideboard. Let's see a Kaito, an Ashiok, second copy of Temur Battle Rage, the 4th copy of Stubborn Denial, Grafdigger's Cage. Yeah, this list is looking really solid, so might have to give this a try on stream at some point. I did see that Mario Gomes played a similar list to a top 32 of the challenge. Looks like the same 75. So clearly Bench is onto something, trying it out. So big shout out to Bench for throwing this list together for us to take a look at. And then we've got a Demir Faeries deck. This one has excited me a ton. So it's Demir Faeries in Modern, not Standard, top 16 to challenge with a lot of awesome throwbacks. So this list has got some new pieces that traditional Lorwyn block fairies and extended fairies didn't have access to, with cards like Tamiyo, Inquisitive Student, Bitter Bloom Bearer, Obira, Dreaming Duelist. But then it's got some really cool OG fairies with Spell Stutter Sprite, Scion of Una, the Fairy Lord that gives all your fairies Shroud. We've got Vendilion Click and Mistbind Click in the sideboard. Cards that if you played standard fairies way back in like 2008, you would know exactly what these cards were capable of. So it's awesome to see a fairies deck going positive, like an all-in fairies deck, because this is legitimately Bitter Bloom Bearer, Spell Stutter Sprite, Bitter Blossom in Modern. So really awesome to see this deck get to come away with a winning record. Whether or not it's got any long-term impact on the format yet to be seen, but a lot of awesome pieces. Another deck that I'm sure I will end up trying out at least once, because fairies are very near and dear to my heart. Played fairies in standard, played fairies in extended, in modern for a while. Always looking for an excuse to break them back out. So that's all of our shout outs. Let's move on to some of the testing we did this past week. Monday, we ran through a couple of leagues. We ran through, like I said, that Demir Flash League with Aspiring Spikes Demir Flash build. Deck's got a lot going for it. I know I played a local modern event today. One of our local players was on that Demir Flash deck. Looked really good. So, interested to see how that deck does going forward. I think that some of and I'll pull one of these lists back up. Some of the things that I personally changed that I kind of support. Spike has got a copy of Spell Pierce in the main and a Logic Knot. I swapped all the Spell Pierces for Force of Negation. I think having a counter spell that's card disadvantage early is worth it to have a counter spell that's not a dead top deck later on. So I made that swap. I added 2 copies of Tamiyo over, I believe, the 3rd non-creature counter. So this list from Itori09 has got a Spell Pierce, a Logic Knot, and a Force Negation. Mine has just got 2 Force Negations, so that 3rd one is a copy of Tamiyo. And then the Kaito Bane of Nightmares that they're playing in the main was a Tamiyo. Though I do love Kaito, so you're not gonna have a hard time convincing me to run Kaito if given the option. And then, like I mentioned, the sideboard, they've got 4 copies of Break the Ice with 4 consigned to memory. The original list was running 3 copies of Graveyard Trespasser. I swapped 2 of those Trespassers out for 2 Kaitos and felt pretty good about that. This one's also running a Harbinger of the Seas. I've run into, I think, 3 Eldrazi matchups since trying out this Flash deck and won all of them. So I don't know how necessary going up on like 4 copies of Break the Ice is, but at the same time, the current modern metagame is having a really big shift towards Eldrazi decks. I've been seeing them pop up a lot. You can see the rising meta percentage. So I don't hate the idea of having a few extra copies of cards for the Eldrazi matchup out of the sideboard. And Break the Ice is a little bit easier than something like Harbinger of the Seas because of your 4 main deck copies of Field of Ruin. So probably be trying that deck out a little bit more in the upcoming weeks. We ran through some test leagues with a couple new standard legal cards, but we ran them in modern. For example, Moon Shadow. We ran 2 different builds, one in the challenge with Sultai Moon Shadow. We were splashing green for Bristlebane Battler, which is like a 1 and a green kind of Moon Shadow. It's a 6/6, 5 -1/-1 counters. It's got Trample and Ward too. And then Hapatra's Mark, which is a 1 green instant from Amonkhet that gives a creature hexproof and removes all -1/-1 counters from it. So protect your Moon Shadow, remove all the counters from it. We were running a Sultai build with like Dress Down, Moon Shadow, Bristlebane Battler, a couple other mid-rangey green, black, blue cards. Very underwhelming. Did not do well. I'm completely okay with shelving that idea. And then we ran another league with Demir Oculus running Moon Shadow. The idea there being that if you manifest over a Moon Shadow with your Oculus, you can pay 1 black mana, flip it into a 7/7 with Menace, instead of it getting the counters as if you cast it normally. Moon Shadow was a little bit better in that. Still not great. I think the card is ultimately going to be in a dedicated shell like a Mishra's Bauble, Dragon's Rage Channeler kind of shell, Street Wraith, stuff like that. Or it might find a home in like Hollow One style decks that are Burning Inquiry and stuff like that. But I think the fair dress down into Moon Shadow plan, or like Moon Shadow Hepatra's Mark plan, I don't think was quite good enough to get it across the finish line. So probably not going to be playing too many of those builds going forward. I have seen some Grixis lists showing up, kind of like Bench Summer's Shadow list, that look a lot more appealing. So I probably will give one of these a shot. But just Moon Shadow in like your stock Demir deck, I don't think is good enough, and probably not going to be testing that particular build going forward. We also played a couple leagues with like Lockmare, Bitterbloom Bearer, just to try to see about casting the cards a little bit in Modern. The honest answer is we got like no data from any of them because we weren't seeing them. Or we saw Bitterbloom Bearer, played it out, made a token, died to a removal spell. Stuff that happens. We saw Lockmare a couple times, but we won on board, didn't get a chance to cast it. So if you are over on YouTube, you might see those videos popping up. They're a little bit more memey than anything, but we haven't gotten like any actual data from casting a lot of Bitterbloom Bearers or Lockmares. Just wanted to point out that we did at least start the process of trying them. But this upcoming week especially, we're going to have a lot of testing for standard going on. I've got a standard RCQ a week from yesterday, so 6 days from now, that I'm going to be playing Demir midrange in. More than likely some number of Bitterbloom Bearers, Reckwitting Hex, Spell Snare especially. So that's kind of where my focus is going to be this upcoming week, is getting ready for that, playing a bunch of the standard cards, a little more arena testing and grinding, and seeing some of the Lorwyn stuff going on there. As far as the Modern testing goes, the week after, more than likely, unless we find ourselves with some extra time, which is always possible. I'll be trying out some more of those like Grixis based Moon Shadow lists, and I'll be trying out Bitterbloom Bearer, like the faeries list in Modern. We might try to tackle that stuff tomorrow on Monday and see how kind of the rest of the week goes, but I really want to plan on next week being standard testing. So as always, if you want to catch one of those streams, I'll have the link down below for the Twitch. Usually Monday, Tuesday, Thursday are our stream days. Tuesdays for Modern challenges, Monday, Thursday for whatever format we're needing to work on for that week. And then last update of our Thoughtseize this episode is social media. So I am absolutely terrified of all things short-term or short-form content, because I've always had this like mental blockade of short form has got to be perfect. Like you got to go through this whole whole set of hoops to edit this 30-second video, and it's got to line up perfectly and whatnot. And I'm trying to get over that mental hump. So what I've got going on is this project. I started a TikTok account, and it's linked to my Instagram, which the links for both of those will be down in the description as well. Started a TikTok account, started posting on the Instagram, and I'm challenging myself to do 365 consecutive days of short form content. And it's just going to be like little 30-second videos, 30-second to a minute videos about varying topics. So for instance, on the this upcoming week, all of my videos that I post, every little clip is going to be about signed Magic cards, whether it be the first cards that I got signed, my favorite card I got signed, something that was tough to track down, something like that. And I'll have a video coming out every day this week about signed Magic cards. And then next week, we might do something like, here's a week of judge calls. So every day is going to be a different judge call story. Then the week after that might be a cool interaction in competitive Magic. But I want to center it around my content. So competitive, modern, standard content, or like in the case of the signed cards, something fun that goes around what I enjoy about Magic. So it's not just going to be gameplay. It's going to be different ways to show off things that I find interesting and fun within the Magic community. So if you want to check that out, I'll have links down below to the TikTok and the Instagram. Either one of those will have access to the same videos, but would greatly appreciate any sort of support, feedback you got as I get over, like I said, this mental hurdle of recognizing that short form content is just all about consistency and repetition and posting all the time. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be present. So there we go on that front. I think that's everything I need to cover in this episode. As always, if you have any shout outs you want me to give, feel free to leave a comment down below. Let me know what I need to be taking a look at, what kind of lists are working for you. Let me know what kind of Lorwyn cards you're excited for. What have you been jamming in standard or modern that has made a difference, that's been cool, that's been unique or fun, exciting, whatever the case may be. Always love to hear those. Links down below for like the Discord if you want to come talk about cards there or show off any of your awesome Lorwyn pulls. For example, let's see if I can find this real quick. I didn't realize that. Hold on. Hope it's in here. I didn't realize that these new full art shock lands. Maybe y'all have seen this. Maybe you haven't. If you haven't, this is absolutely awesome. I didn't realize that these new full art shock lands from the Lorwyn set were double-sided. I had no idea on that. So I picked up a hallowed fountain from a local player over here. I know it's kind of hard to see with the glare, but I picked up a hallowed fountain. It's like bright and cheerful on one side and then like dark and mysterious and stuff on the other. And that is absolutely blowing my mind. Like I knew some of the full art cards like Clarion Conqueror had a backside. I did not know that they were doing that for Shocklands now. So I'm going to be upgrading some Shocklands very soon. If you want to check out that journey, I'll probably have something about it on Instagram and TikTok. Other than that, that's it for today's episode. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your evening. Stay safe. Enjoy some good food and company. As always, hope to catch y'all back live later. Adios for now.